back to another episode of the From the Farmyard podcast. And today we're going to be talking to you guys about how to map out your garden and all the necessary steps that you can take to have a quote unquote successful garden.
We are getting into the gardening season. This was really exciting because for the past 3 or 4 months, we've just been doing winter content, and that's sad. I mean, it was good, really good content, but I mean, there's just something about gardening content that just gets me excited. It gets me, I don't know, it's very, very exciting because you know that time of year's coming around and it's coming quick and you start to feel it. You feel it in your soul. It's just like, I'm ready to get out there, get in the dirt and start growing. Um, so today we're
Like
going to
it's
talk
almost
about,
April. That's that's mind boggling to me is because we are like 10 days away from April. And that's kind of scary because I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember the past few months.
but spring is coming. And today we're going to talk about mapping out your garden and getting stuff planned because you don't want to be last minute. I mean, you can if that's the way you want to do things. Go you. I mean, there ain't nothing wrong with that. I
Mm.
Sometimes we thrive off of that, and that's totally okay. But it's
Yep.
good to have a plan. And so today we're going to talk to you a bit about how you could form a plan and what that looks like. So firstly, let's talk about preparing your space. So in general, let's just say you don't even have a garden at all. Okay. Let's start building your garden. Okay. We've talked about
Yep.
ways you can grow a garden. Yeah. We talk about that, but we talk about ways you can build affordable gardens if you want to do something on a container scale, if you want to do something that's just a little cheaper, or if you want to go all out and buy and make some raised beds. However you want to do it, you do you. That's your cup of tea and that's your decision. But if you don't have a garden, obviously this is the time when you need to start building a garden. We're not going to get into that today. If you would like to learn how to build yourself an affordable garden, we will have that linked at the end along with all of our other gardening content. Um, but preparing your space. So mainly what I want to talk about with this one is okay, so winter, we got through it. What is left over in the garden that you didn't clean out in harvest time?
Yeah.
Usually we have a time of clean out. After everything's died back, everything's done producing. Let's just say for me, it's September or October. November, everything's really just out of the garden. And I clean it out and I cover it up. It's overwintering. I have a video on that as well. It'll be in the gardening content if you want to find it. Um, but basically with that, it's just I cover my beds with leaf mulch or grass clippings, stuff like that to just prevent anything growing up, sprouting. But let's just say you didn't get to clean out your garden and stuff is left in it. This is the time when you need to start preparing your garden. So if you don't have a garden, build
And
one. If you do have a garden, clean it out, get things ready because you're going to be planting within the next like 2 months. So just to have that be on top of that and just be prepared. You don't have to do it quite yet, but this is just something in the mix that we're talking about today of just a way you can get started on your garden process.
yeah. And I would even say if you didn't clean out your garden, because I managed my great grandparents' garden too. Um, I did not get over there and clean out their garden at the end of last year. So there was tomato vines all over one bed and other things completely died back. But it did form a nice cover for the ground. So it's not like the end of the world. It just prevented weeds from coming up. So just remove that. Same thing like Reagan was talking about. Just removing, well, she doesn't remove the top layer, but just taking stuff out and yeah, making room.
Exactly. Cleaning out your garden doesn't have to be right now again. This is just one of the things that we're talking about in today's video.
And starting
Um,
early, like for me, I've been doing little steps for just whenever the days are warmer,
right.
building new beds if I have to build new beds, things like that. Just so when my plant date comes, I don't have to be rushing around that whole week building new beds, getting compost, all that. Just
Exactly.
chipping away at it a little bit at a time.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to get a head start on things. Which is why one of my bigger projects at the end of the season is to overwinter and cover my stuff up. Just so that way, because we had one time where we just let the garden go and there was a ton
Mhm.
of weeds. It looked like an absolute field inside my garden. Since then, I have really kept, like, compared to what it used to be, I've really kept up with keeping it clean and tidy because it is a mess whenever you just have to, like, weed whack it, basically. It's nasty.
Yeah.
That's why, like, in the fall, that's just something for me to later be like, okay, now that I have this garden all prepared, all I have to do is pull the leaves off or the grass, or till it in, or just remove an area. That way it's still covered and it's really
Yeah.
good composting material. It's good for the soil. It's good for the worms, all that stuff. Um, but secondly, let's start talking about forming a layout for your garden. Um, this is a big thing. And you don't really do this until you have the items that you want to grow, all that stuff. But you make a list of
Mhm.
what you want to grow. From there, you say, okay, well, now that I have a list of what I want to grow, okay, where am I putting all the stuff? Read your packets, do research on your plants, how much
Yeah.
spacing they need, all that stuff. Have that knowledge available to you already. If you had a garden beforehand, remembering what you planted the last year helps you for the next year because some plants take up more nutrients than others, whereas others add to it. So being able to rotate your crops in
Mhm.
your beds is also really helpful information. Um,
And if you didn't light an area where one of your beds was, or it just didn't get enough light like you
exactly.
thought, then now's the time to move it because nothing's growing. You could have done that in the fall, but spring's the next best time. Just move the bed, take all the soil, put it into a different area, move the bed, and then put all the soil back in.
Exactly. It's just getting things ready, and that's what today's topic is really about. You want to be ready for when the growing time comes because, like Zach said, you don't want to be rushing around. It's just when you're already trying to
It
do a bunch of
stresses you out when you
tasks.
don't need it.
Yeah. When you're already trying to do a bunch of tasks, trying to get plants in the ground before they like die in their starter containers, it's like you don't want to be having to go through and move beds around or weed everything.
Yeah.
So having this plan, um, having a plan for it is really good. We're gonna talk to you a bit at the end. Me and Zach both have started a new little project for this year where we're keeping record of all our gardening things. And if you do that, we'd love to hear how you do that. So put it in the comments. We'd love to see your
Mhm.
journal setups as well. But we'll get to that later at the end. But keeping
Yeah.
record is also really important to this whole process. So for me, I took into consideration my beds, my measurements for my beds. Not exactly. It's really just like a rough outline. I don't have like,
Yeah.
okay, so my seeds need to go at least 5 inches apart and my bed's only like a foot wide, blah, 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 blah. That
Yeah.
doesn't, we don't have to be specific. This is gardening. They will grow how they will grow. No matter what you do, they're gonna do something else. It
Exactly.
doesn't, it's just the way gardening works. It's nature. Let it take its course. Um,
Exactly.
but having a rough outline, again, it just helps you be able to know, okay, well, and this leads into our next topic. It helps you to know, okay, what seeds do I need to buy? What seeds do I need to plant? If I have only this much spacing left, what plant can I put here? How much sun and water does this area get? So having a rough outline of where you're going to put your plants, is really a good idea because it just, again, helps you a little bit more to be a bit more prepared than what you could have been.
Yeah. And I get that. And it's okay with forming a layout, draw it out on paper 15 times before you get the right thing. I have done so many different outlines. I have most of them. I think I've thrown some of them away just because it's just a lot. But I have some from the very first outlines where I'm just doing the beds. Some of them are more with this or that. And then some things I really start thinking, or I look back at old pictures and videos and I'm like, that I didn't like that there last year, or that overcrowded something. And it's just how I do my garden. Do things you don't have to get spacing right. You're almost never going to get spacing completely right. Just
Right.
go where you think. And more times than not, they're going to grow, like Reagan said.
Right, exactly. Um, so you've prepared your garden, you have created a layout. Now let's talk about taking seed inventory. So let's just say you have a ton of seeds like we do. I'm looking at my briefcases right now because I have 2 briefcases of seeds. And I have all those seeds. Now last year, I bought too many seeds. I didn't need all those seeds. This year, I have seeds available to me. So being able to
Mhm.
take inventory and look through my seeds and be like, okay, what do I need to buy this year? Because it also helps you save money. If you don't use all of the seeds at once, then you don't have to go out. Why would you buy another pack of seeds when you already have them on hand?
Right.
So being able to take inventory of all your seeds, look through your seeds, see if you need more. Maybe you do have a really, really ancient pack of seeds, and you're just like, maybe we could get a new one. Just to, not saying it doesn't work, but I'm just saying maybe we could get a new one. Or if you have
Yeah.
like just a few seeds and you're just like, I want more plants in there, get some more. If you need more, get some more. If you don't, actually do, because
You're
honestly,
still gonna get
who
more.
doesn't want to get seeds? Let's be real. You go to the store and you see that beautiful arrangement of so many different colors and plants, and you're just like, I need one. And you end up getting
Of
12.
everything. Yeah. But I mean, that's how it is. Like when I first started my gardening stuff, um, my garden, not stuff, my garden, I bought, I think it was 8 to 12 different packets of corn. Now, over I think 4 years now, I've used all of those. So this year I just bought 8 to 12 more packets of corn. But I know that I won't have to buy those for a few years because they're going to go through what I need. And this year I bought the tomatoes. This year is hopefully my last year buying more tomatoes. I'm really cutting back on that because I want to save enough seeds because tomatoes, I mean, everybody loves tomatoes, so the prices on those can go up for very few. So I do want to save the seeds from those, and then that also leads into a whole different topic, GMO tomato seeds, if you want to find that one and watch that one until we get into that. But yeah, so just saving what you can, and saving seeds is also another great way to continue having a supply
Hmm.
of seeds, like just never ending. Like zinnias, I say I'll never buy more zinnias because I shouldn't, but I'm gonna see something every year, like one packet of zinnias at least that I'm gonna want to buy. But most of my zinnias I'm gonna be saving seeds for continually, or just yeah, I'm just always gonna have the seeds for them.
Exactly. So take inventory of what you have, see if you need more, and then go buy them. Okay. That's really simple. Just go buy your seeds. If you need seeds,
Yep.
go buy them, like I said before. If you don't, still go buy them. Doesn't really matter. I'm not going to tell you any differently because I myself don't listen to myself and I go buy more anyway. So it doesn't really matter what I say. Um, yeah, go do you and have a great time doing it because it
Like
is a joy.
sit in that seed aisle and just like
Bask in its glory.
yeah, just sit there and just look at everything. Now, I will try to be a voice of reason. If you cannot feasibly, if you feasibly don't have the space to do something, like you can't do a bunch of watermelons or pumpkins or anything like that, don't buy a bunch of those, obviously, because chances are you're never going to be able to go through those. Or you could just buy them like I do and have them.
Zach's a party
More
pooper.
spaces. No, I'm just trying put the money that you're going to be buying like vining things into if you don't have the room for vining things into setting up a trellis to then put those vining things on. But don't just like jump the gun and
Oh,
get everything. Even though I do, so don't always listen to what I say because yeah, I said I wasn't going to buy any seeds and then more money than I care to share
yeah,
has been spent
yeah.
on seeds this
Yeah,
year.
yeah. Zach's the real adult here, let's be honest.
Not always. Just right now.
Okay. So coming to the end of this episode, it's not over yet. We still have like we're gonna talk about garden journals because it's gonna take up a minute or two. More than that. But this is the last topic for this episode. So we're almost done, guys. We're almost done talking. So let's talk about garden journals. This is the new thing that we're doing. So, your garden, you have cleaned it up. You've prepared it. You built a garden if you've never built a garden before. You built a garden. Congratulations, new garden owners. We love you, and we're here to
This will
support you.
become your new addiction, so be
Exactly.
prepared to spend way more money than you want to spend.
Exactly. So
If you have a budget of
you
$100, be prepared to spend over 500. I'm just telling you.
you cleaned the garden, you formed a layout, you organized the seeds, you bought the seeds that you needed. Now, let's talk about keeping record of everything. So let's just take into consideration everything that we just learned about, everything that we just did. Write it down in your journal, okay? You have a layout for your garden, put it in your journal. That way you can remember when you go to plant, okay, this is where I wanted this, and that's why I bought this, and that's where
Mhm.
this goes, and this is the spacing, all that stuff. Put it in your journal, okay? If you took inventory of your seeds, that's okay to put in your journal too. Whatever you want to put in your journal that you think is necessary and useful information, put it in there. But to inspire you guys a bit, we're going to talk about the things that we've put into our garden journals just briefly. Just to give you guys, if you want to start a garden journal, which you should, because again, this is really useful information that you can look at and be like, okay, next year I go to plant and I'm like, what worked in this area and what didn't? How did
Yeah.
my garden look last year? And what can I plant here to add more nutrition to add more nutrients to my soil that maybe some plants pulled? What did I put where? All that stuff. So I took inventory of my seeds. I have that in my journal. I also have my garden layout. I have goals that I want to achieve and would like to see accomplished. I also have a monthly tracker just to see growth progression because for me, I'd like to see when they started blooming, when they died, when the growth period was, when I put the seeds in the ground. So I have all the different months and then I have the seed inventory on the side. So where the seeds are, I just write in the month a specific color. So blue would be I put the seeds in the ground, green, it's them growing, and red is when I harvested them, and brown would be when they died. So that's just for me to know, okay, so I was able to harvest through July, August, September, blah blah blah. It just helps me get a better understanding for that. This was optional, but for me it was important. I probably will not keep up with it because I'm really bad at like committing to things daily. Like once I get a pattern, I should be good, but I might skip a couple days because I'm a little forgetful. I want to
Okay.
keep track of the weather. Because sometimes it's useful, maybe not in the next year, but it's useful right now. I can look at, okay, what was the weather on April 7th? Oh, it was raining. Okay, so like, I don't have to water today because I know that it rained. If it was like a sufficient amount of rain, if it was more sun than rain, I will have that written down in there.
And that's
Um,
also good to have in there because if you're looking back at the end of your year, and I would look at it like that, if you're going back to the end of your year and you're just like, okay, what things didn't do well, you could look back and you could have the weather as a database for
exactly.
if it got too much water or not enough, things like that.
Yeah. So then I also have like a calendar. Just every month, I'd like to put in specific notes from that month. I have some plans, some things that I want to, again, see fulfilled, all in my garden journal. So those are just specific things that I've put in there. Just another way for me to keep track and be like, okay, I can look back at this and remember what happened this date, what happened to these plants. I want to put in the back of the journal, which we're both going to do. We're gonna make like a basically like each plant is gonna have like a specific detailed like, okay, what happened to
Mhm.
this plant? How did the growth go? All that stuff. But what did you do in your journal?
In the beginning of my journal, I have just some motivation. Um, I thought that was really needed for me, especially after my last year stuff. Um, I also included Bible verses in that. That's one way for me to stay motivated and just different things with different times and stuff like that. I did the list of supplies that I would need. No, I didn't like go into like every seed packet that I needed. I could have, but I just broke it down: seeds, compost, down the list. Things that I wanted to accomplish, which those things have been accomplished, and then there's been a lot more that's happened, and that was nowhere even in the plans. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to go exactly how you pictured, but at least try to go through those things before the end of the year. What else do I have? I have my garden layout just on a plain sheet of printer paper, drew out my garden. My great grandparents' garden I have in there, and different goals for each garden. Like my goal this year is to grow more slicer tomatoes because I have struggled greatly with that. Cherry tomatoes, down pat. I can grow so many of those. Slicers, a little iffy for me. So I'd like to go ahead, I'd like to try to get better at that this year and maximizing harvest, stuff like that. I also started the plant studies, study guides for each plant, like
That's
Reagan
what
was
they were
talking
called.
about.
I knew what it was called. I just couldn't think of the name. Plant studies.
They're
That's
good.
what we're gonna do.
And I have kind of already started. I started when I planted them indoors, and their growth period, just different things that have happened. Like sometimes I did when I watered. Exactly. I know I did when they germinated, when I sowed them, and then I think I have harvest and a few other things on there. But I noted when first leaves came in, um, just some other things when I transplanted them out and different stuff. But I really wanted this to be something that is a treasure trove of knowledge that I can just go back to for years from now and see, okay, because I'm going to write down, like with my tomatoes, I'm trying, I think, 15 different tomato varieties this year. I want to keep track of which ones I don't like. I kind of just want to eliminate some things because I'm not going to grow 15 forever, but I'd like to cut out whichever ones that I don't like. And I feel like this is a good way to remember that, but also to stick to that plan of I don't need them any. I didn't like them last year. Let's try something else or just stick to the tried and trues.
Right. Oh, that's it. That's all you have.
Yeah. So that's
Oh.
everything that I have in my plant studies. At the end, I am going to add like at each plant study, I want to add like a picture of the harvest or something.
Yeah.
And at the very
I was
end of the
thinking about
book,
that. That'd be so cool to have like pictures of like your process and progression. Cause here again, yeah, we
yeah.
post on social media and we're able to look back at videos and stuff. That's like another way
But
that we document. But like to have
yeah.
it in your book from that year and be like, okay, so this was 2024. What happened?
Mhm.
What does it look like? To be able to look back at that, like a scrapbook type thing, I don't know. It just seems really cool.
Yeah. So I want to include pictures of the harvest. Like first thing that I planted was cabbages. So I'm going to include a picture of cabbages that I harvested on that page. I'm going to cut them out to fit in whatever corner they can fit in. But I want to include that. And then at the very end, I want to include a bunch of just pictures from the garden, like my favorite little spot, my favorite pictures of tomato, just a whole bunch of different pictures. But it's really dependent on how much space I have, on how many pictures are going to go in it. If I need to, I'll just start a whole nother journal for all the pictures. But that's what I want to do. I think that would be just so much fun, and then have the two together.
Yeah. So, we hope this episode helped you out because it's getting close to garden season, like we said in the beginning of this episode, and we just want you guys to be set. We want you to be prepared, whether you're a new gardener or you've been doing this for years, a lot longer than I have. We don't ask you to take our advice and go run with it. We say, listen to us, and if you feel inspired or educated, then of course run with it. Sure. I don't trust
But everybody's
everything that I
everybody's
say.
gardening. Yeah, everybody's gardening ways are different.
Exactly. We
And
talk
you're
from
gonna
our
find your own thing.
experiences. And maybe it's relatable to you. And maybe you just learned a tip that's like, oh, I didn't think about cleaning out my garden. Like, I mean, obviously you have to clean out your garden at some point, but I didn't think about cleaning out my garden right in the fall. I always just leave it through the winter and then pull everything out in the winter. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. Clean it out in the fall. Just gives you something extra to be prepared for the spring. So, spring rolling up real fast. Get ready for gardening content because it's coming. We missed it, and maybe you
We
missed
missed
it
it a
too.
lot.
If you didn't, I'm sorry. It's coming either way. We love
It is,
gardening.
and yeah, I'm
We'll
so excited.
we'll have other farming content mixed in as well because we are from the farmyard and we cover topics from the farmyard, not just gardening, but gardening is a part of that. So we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And thank you so much for joining us here. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Bye, y'all.